Okay, good morning to all. So let us continue in discussing our unit number 3, that is process synchronization or concurrency control. So in the previous lecture, we are discussing the deadlock. So earlier to the deadlock, we have discussed about the process synchronization, how the synchronization is achieved in the process, and why there is a need of synchronization to avoid the race condition. Synchronization is very much essential. The second important point is that we have also seen the classical examples or the classical problems of the process synchronization. That is nothing but producer-consumer problem, a reader-writer problem, or the dining philosopher problem, right? And how to solve or how to provide the solution to this problem with the help of semaphore or using semaphore, that also we have discussed already. And the next point that is we are discussing is nothing but the deadlock. So deadlock, as everybody knows that already we have discussed that deadlock is nothing but the hang situation when your machine enters into the hang state, right? And why the deadlock occur in the system? So if one process or two process enters into the wait state, that may not cause of the deadlock, right? Means one can say that there are 10% or the 15% of the processes they are in a waiting state. We cannot call this situation as a deadlock. Then when the deadlock occur, so if there are 90% or 80% processes, they enters into the deadlock state, meaning is that there are maximum number of processes, they are in a waiting state. They are in a waiting state, they are not performing any useful work. Such is the situation, we can say that the deadlock occur in the system, right? And we have to see how to deal with the deadlock, which are the deadlock avoidance and deadlock prevention strategies. But before to that, we have seen the four necessary conditions for the deadlock. The four necessary condition means what? These are the necessary conditions. Means deadlock to occur in the system. Deadlock to occur in the system. These four conditions are necessary. Means deadlock occur in the system. The four deadlock occur in the system if and only if these four conditions are fulfilled. Right? Means if there is a mutual exclusion and there is a hold and wait and there is a no preemption and there is a circular wait, then 100% the deadlock occur in the system. Then if you want, so the solution is there in the problem itself. What is the solution? So if we want to prevent the deadlock, we have to avoid at least one of the condition. If you try, if you in the sense, if operating system is successfully able to avoid or prevent one of the necessary condition, means either hold and wait or either mutual exclusion or either no preemption or either circular wait, then 100% deadlock will not occur or the system may not lead toward the deadlock situation, right? So this is the way. So these are the four necessary conditions. Mutual exclusion means what? Only one process at a time can use the resource. Means if another process requests that particular resource, the process has to wait. That is called as a mutual exclusion, or the resource, it is that particular resource is mutually exclusive. Hold and wait in the sense is that the process, there exists a process that is holding some resources and waiting to get some another resources, right? So that particular process itself, it is not in a running state. See carefully, that process which is not in a running state, it is itself, it is in a waiting state. Why? It is waiting to get some other resource, but at the same time it is holding some different resources. Getting this point? And as it holds the resources, that resources cannot be allocated to some new process, right? So that's why some other process, they are also interested in the waiting state. So this is the major condition, that is the hold and wait. No preemption means there are some resources that cannot be preempted once that resource has been allocated. For example, printer is one resource. When one process or when one program is being printed currently, so it will stop after the complete printing of that particular program. You cannot print the another program by halting the previous printing process, right? So no preemption means once the resource has been allocated to that particular process, it will continue till its complete execution. And circular wait in the sense is that the process is holding resource and waiting to acquire some resource, and there is a circle established between the process resource P1 is waiting for say resource R1. That R1 it is allocated to process P2, and P2 is waiting for resource R2, and R2 is allocated to process P1. So that like a chain structure, or one can say there is a circular structure created, and that is called as a circular wait condition. So these four conditions are necessary condition for deadlock to occur. So it is very important in examination. Always there is a question: key write and or discuss the necessary conditions for the deadlock. So we have to put or we have to explain this 4 condition, right? The resources, we have seen the physical resources as well as, so why the deadlock occur in the system? Because we have the less number of resources. We have the less number of resources, that's why the deadlock occur in the system. So resources, there may be the single instance type of resource, or there may be multiple instances type of resources. Multiple instances, there are 2 instances of the same resource types are available. Say for example, this is resource R1 and this is particular resource R2. So we can say that R1 is having the single instance type. Means only P1 process, only single process can be allocated to that particular R1 process. But if the R2 is having the 2 instances, so maximum 2 process P1 and P2 can be allocated to this particular resource R2. Getting the point or not? What is the importance of the instances of the resource? If there is a single instance of resource, only one process can be satisfied. If there are multiple resources, multiple processes can be satisfied by that particular resource, right? So, and we have to also see the request means what? If the request cannot be granted immediately, then the requesting process must wait. That is, the request means the process is requesting the resource. Use means the process is using that particular resource currently, and release means what? Once the process complete its work with that particular resource, the resource is being released, right? So next point we have to see here is the resource allocation graph. So resource allocation graph means it is just a graph, means it is a graphical representation. What is this graph? It is a graphical representation of process and resource in simple word. Means processes are represented with the help of circle and the resources are represented with the help of rectangle boxes. That we have to see. And with the help of this resource allocation graph, we can able to mention, or we can able to say that whether the system enters into the deadlock state or not. Right? Means with the help of this RAG, this in short form of resource allocation graph is RAG. With the help of this RAG, we can able to justify that whether the system leads toward the deadlock or whether the system not leads toward the deadlock situation. Right? So deadlocks can be described more precisely in terms of directed graph. It is directed graph means the edges are directed. That is called as the resource allocation graph. Now the graph consists of, this particular graph consists of vertices V, set of vertices V, and set of edges capital E. Getting my point? So these 2 vertices, P is nothing but, so P are the processes, and there are 2 type of vertices. There are 2 type of vertices. That is one is nothing but your process, another is nothing but your resources. Right? So what is happening here? So we have here set of edges E is nothing but from process to resource and from resource to process. See carefully, directed edge from process Pi to resource Rj, that is nothing but Pi to Rj. See this one particular edge. The meaning of this particular edge from P to R, this particular edge, it is called as the request edge. Meaning is that process P is requesting that particular resource. This particular process P is requesting the resource. So Pi is requesting an instance of resource Rj, and it is currently waiting for that resource. See carefully. P1 has demanded this resource R, but it is not currently being allocated to that particular process. See carefully. What is the meaning of this particular edge? This edge indicates that process P is demanding, yes, for the execution of that particular process, it requires that resource, but it is not yet been allocated. It is not yet been allocated to that particular process. It is still in demand. Getting my point or not? So waiting in the sense P1 is waiting. So if this is the edge P to R, meaning is that process requires a resource, but it is not till allocated to that particular process. This is the first significance of that particular edge. The directed edge, see second one, directed edge from the resource R to process P is nothing but, say for example, if this edge is exactly reverse, if this edge, say for example, instead of in this direction, if the edge is in this direction, say for example R to P, if this edge in this particular format R to P, then it is, that is significance is that instance of resource Rj has been allocated to process Pi, means this particular resource is being allocated to this particular process. Meaning is that that particular resource is being utilized, it is under use by the process P, and it is called as the allocation edge. This is called as allocation edge, whereas this is called as the request edge. This particular edge from process to resource, request edge. From resource to process, allocation edge, or it is allocated to that particular process. So that's why, see here, Pi age to Rj, that is called as the request age. And for the simplicity, for the understanding purpose, you can remember like this: PRR means process, request, resource. Process, request, resource, that is PRR. This is the significance of this particular age, right? And the second one is that PI, and if the age is exactly reverse from Rj to PI, it is called as the assignment age or the allocation age. It is called as the assignment age or the allocation. Meaning is that this Ri is currently being used by this particular process, or Ri, it is allocated to that particular process, or Rj is allocated or assigned to that particular process. It is a simple one. In RAG, circle represent the process, and already we have discussed. Circle, it is nothing but, say for example, these are the process P1, P2, P3. These are the processes, and the square box or the rectangle box represent the resources. Rectangle boxes represent the resources, right? So one graph is given here. See carefully the graph, and this is resource allocation graph. Now, how to read this graph? Resource allocation graph. One instance of resource type R1. It contains the resource instance. One instance of resource type R1. There is a one instance of resource type R3. There are two instances of resource type R2, and there are three instances of resource type R4. Clear? So these are the four different types of instances, or the four resources with their instances are drawn here in the resource allocation graph. Now the processes. Process P1, process P2, and process P3. These are the three processes. Now, how to read this graph, or how to read or how to draw this particular graph? See carefully. When I am drawing from process P1 to resource R1, this is called as the request age. This particular age, it is called as the request age, right? And the age which is drawn from resource R1 to process P2, this is called as the allocation age. This is called as the allocation age. And see how to draw. See, there is a difference between drawing the request age and the allocation age. So request age start from the circle, edge of the circle up to the boundary of that particular square. It will not enter inside that particular square box. See carefully. Request age, how the request, say for example, P2 is requesting a resource R3. So this request is from starting from here and it complete here, right? It will not enter inside the box, the request age. Whereas if it is the allocation age from, for example, R3 allocated to P3, resource R3, one instance of resource R3 is being allocated to process P3. So this is starting within that particular circle, within that particular square or the rectangle, and it come to the edge of that particular circle. Getting the difference or not? How the allocation is drawn? Allocation is starting inside that particular square box up to the circle edge, right? So here also R2 is one instance. Now see here, so this one P1 requesting R1, but R1, one instance of R1, it is being allocated to process P2. This is the way. Now P2 is requesting resource R3. P2 is requesting resource R3, but one instance of resource R3, it is currently being allocated to process P3. The three instances of resource R4, they are not currently allocated or currently being used by any of the process P1, P2, P3. P2 and so now R2, come to R2 here, resource R2. One instance of resource R2, it is currently being allocated to process P1. So this is nothing but your allocation of resource R1 by to process P1, means R2, one instance R2 allocated to process P1, and this one is another one, that is R2, one instance is allocated to P2. Means this R2 resource is being shared between the process P1 and process P2. See carefully. Getting the point or not? What is the importance of instances? One instance is allocated to process P1 and another instance is allocated to process P2. Getting this point or not? So we can see here the request stage, how to draw the way, there is a way, request stage up to the starting with the circle, end with the year, and the allocation is starts from that particular center or start from that particular instance and ends to the this particular border of that particular square, that circle. Getting this point? So this is called as the resource allocation graph. Now how this resource allocation graph, you can say that how this graph is useful to detect whether the system enters into a deadlock state or not. So that we'll see. See here, if RAG, if resource allocation graph contains no cycle, if resource allocation graph contains no cycle, then there is no deadlock at all. If this resource allocation graph contains no cycle, then there is no deadlock absolutely. But if if cycle is there, if resource allocation graph contains a cycle, what a cycle means, what a circle forms there. If the cycle is there, then deadlock may exist. Now the may word is important here. Then there may be a deadlock or may not be a deadlock. Now why may is word is here, we'll see by case 1 and case 2. See here, cycle is there means what? Say for example, so P1 requesting R1 is allocated to P2, right? And P2 is now requesting R3, and R3 allocated to P3 is now requesting R2. So this cycle is created. This is the cycle number 1, for example. This one cycle is created. So this is the cycle created. We can say that this is the cycle. Means there is a circular way like this. So this is the way you have the cycle is created in that particular resource allocation graph, right? It is directed edges. Now, so if this circular nature exists, if the circular nature exists means process P and R, then again P and again R and again P. If cycle is exist, then deadlock may occur in the system. Of course, if there is a no cycle existing, so cycle detection. So this is also called as the cycle detection algorithm. Cycle detection in the sense that if in resource allocation graph, if there is a cycle, so 100%. So if there is no cycle, 100% the system may not lead. System will not go towards the deadlock state. If there is no cycle, no deadlock. The first statement. The second statement is that if there is a cycle, then there is a chances that the system may lead toward the deadlock state. May means there is a 50% chances. 50% chances if there is a cycle. If this is there, so we can say that yes, if this particular system, it may move towards the, or it may move towards the deadlock state. So how that will see case 1. Now see the case 1. If each resource has exactly one instance, see here, if each resource type in that resource allocation graph having exactly one instance, then cycle implies deadlock occur. 101% deadlock occur in the system. Therefore, cycle is the necessary and the sufficient condition for the deadlock, right? So if there is a cycle, so we can say that yes, there is a 50% chances that or the deadlock may occur or deadlock may not occur in the system if there is a cycle. So when if there is a cycle and if all the resources has exactly one instance, then 100% the cycle indicates the system leads toward the deadlock state. Getting this point or not? 100% the cycle indicates that there is 100% deadlock. When each resource is having exactly one instance type. The second number case is that if each resource has more than one instances. Now consider the second scenario. In the resource allocation graph, there are the resources, and there are more than one instances, and there are more than one instance type. Then cycle does not imply deadlock occur. Then though the cycle is there, but the system will not go toward the deadlock state. Getting the difference or not? Though the cycle exists, but still the system may not lead toward the deadlock state because there are some resources who are having more than one instances, or they are having multiple instance type resources, right? So with the example, we will justify or we will prove these statements, right? So statements are what statements? The statements are there if there is a cycle. If there is no cycle, no deadlock. The first point is finished. Second case, if there is a cycle, then deadlock may exist. And again, there are two conditions. If the single instance type, if there is a cycle, and if the resources they are of the single instance type, then 100% deadlock occur. So in this case, deadlock is the necessary and the sufficient condition. And the second is nothing but if your instances they are having multiple instance type, if all resources they are having multiple instance type, then cycle is necessary. It is necessary, but not the sufficient condition in that particular case. Clear this point? Now we'll see the example. Okay, let us see example for this. So see this one. So the resource allocation graph is drawn here. R2, so P1 requesting R1, R1 is allocated to P2, P2 is requesting resource R3, R3 is allocated to process P3, and P3 is requesting one instance of R2. and one instance of R2 is allocated to P2. This is the case. So in this case, the two cycles are exist, which is the cycle P1, R1, T2, R3, P3, R2, and P1. This is the cycle number 1. And the cycle number 2 is P2. Where is the P2? This is the P2. Means this is the inner cycle. P2, R3, P2 to R3, this arrow. Then from R3 to P3, this is another arrow. And from P3 to R2, P3 to R2. So this is the cycle. This is nothing but the cycle, right? So since no resource available, process P1, P2, P3 are deadlocked. Process P1, P3 are, we can call it as a deadlock. They enter into the deadlock state. Why? Because yes, there is a cycle exists, and there is a no scope, or we can have there is a no resource available to allocate that particular process. So we can say that the cycle is the necessary and the sufficient condition to deadlock to occur. This is your first case. This is the first case, case number 1. Now for consider the, so understood everybody? Yes, if there is no cycle, there is no question about the deadlock. But if there is a cycle, so there may be chances of deadlock. So there are again two cases if there is a cycle. So case number 1 is that if the cycle is there and there are all resources, they are having single instance type, all resources are having the single instance type, then 100% the cycle is there, the system leads to the deadlock state. Getting this point? Now, if there is a cycle, but the resources, second category, if the resources, they are having more than one instances, multiple instances, then cycle does not imply the system enters into the deadlock state. So cycle is the necessary, but not the sufficient condition. Second case, we'll see here. Now, consider the following resource allocation graph. P1 is a demanding resource R1, but one instance of R1 is being allocated to process P2. Second graph. R1, one instance of R1 allocated to process P3. Now P3 process is demanding one instance of resource R2, and one instance of R2 is allocated to P4, and one instance is allocated to P1 process. So yes, there is a cycle P1 to R1 to P3 to R2 to again P1. Yes, there is a cycle. The cycle is P1, R1, P3, R2, P1. But still, cycle is necessary, but it is not the sufficient. It is not the sufficient. Why? There is no deadlock. Why there is no deadlock? As P4 may release its instance of R2 that can be allocated to process P3, breaking the cycle. Means this particular edge you can break here. This particular edge get break here, or this resource can be released, or means P4 may release its instance of R2, and once this instance get free, see carefully, once this particular instance get free, this edge, this initial request edge now get converted into the allocation edge, and once this edge get converted from request to allocated edge, automatically it will going to break your cycle, and as there is no cycle, there is no deadlock in the system. Getting this point or not? What is the significance of cycle? Right, why the cycle is important? If there is a cycle and all the resources, they are having the single instance type, 100% system enters into the deadlock state. But if there is a cycle and if the resources, second condition is that if all the resources, they are having multiple instances, right, multiple instances, then it may happen that some processes may release their resource instances, and that instances can be utilized by the requesting process, which ultimately going to break your cycle. And as the cycle is going to break here, there will not be any chances of deadlock, right? So from the theory point of view, it is very important. There is a question in the examination to prove that resource allocation graph, how it is helpful to detect the deadlock occur in the system. So or how the cycle detection algorithm, or how the cycle detection in the resource allocation graph is used with the help of resource allocation graph to detect the deadlock, right? So the summary, so we can summarize like this: if resource allocation graph does not have the cycle, the system is not in a deadlock state, right? But if there is a cycle, then system may or may not be in a deadlock state. This point is to be noted here. If RAG does not have cycle, then system is not in a deadlock state. But if there is a cycle, then system may or may not be in the deadlock state. That is the case, right? Okay, so I think this will be clear to you how this resource allocation graph is helpful for the deadlock checking, right? We are going to check, or we are going to verify whether the system gets into the deadlock or not. Now we'll move to the next point. Okay. So see here, next point is nothing but methods for handling the deadlocks. Methods for handling the deadlocks. How to handle the deadlock? There are three methods: deadlock prevention, deadlock avoidance, and deadlock occur and recover. They are how to deal with the deadlock, right? So deadlock prevention. So you know that prevention is always better than cure. So how to prevent the deadlock? So system must ensure that there should not be any kind of deadlock occur in the system. So deadlock, it is to be cared by system in the sense operating system. It is the duty of operating system to ensure that the system never lead toward the deadlock state, right? So it use a protocol that ensure deadlock never occur, set of methods for ensuring that at least one of the necessary condition cannot hold. So this is important. To prevent the deadlock, for the prevention of deadlock, the operating system must check that at least one of the condition, at least one of the necessary condition, mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption or circular wait, that should be stopped. At least one condition is successfully stopped. Definitely, the OS will be successful in preventing the deadlock. This is the first case, prevention. But though theoretically it is possible, but practically it is not possible to prevent the deadlock, right? So we cannot prevent because there are chances, because there are n number of processes and resources are very limited or very few resources. So yes, there is a chances that at some time the system may go towards the deadlock state. It may happen in the system. So prevention, though theoretically it is right, yes, we can prevent at least one of the condition to occur, but practically it is not feasible. Right. So second is nothing but the deadlock avoidance. So we have to go for the deadlock avoidance. Means at least we have to try to avoid the deadlock. Means if we are not able, we in the sense operating system, if operating system is not able to prevent the deadlock 100%, but at least OS will able to avoid the deadlock. So how to avoid the deadlock? So deadlock avoidance in the sense that operating system gives in advance additional information concerning which resources a process requests and use during its lifetime. Means when a process is being created or when the new process enters into the system, it has to declare for its complete execution how many resources it requires during its lifetime, so that operating system will do accordingly, or operating system will take the necessary action. That particular, suppose a P7 process newly added in the system, so P7 has to declare what all the resources is it require during its lifetime for its complete execution. So operating system, it has to now take care that for the complete execution of this P7 process, these are the resources that are already given by the process P7, then how to allocate and when to allocate. Means whether these resources are currently available. If they are available, no doubt it can allocate it. But if they are being used by some other processes, then operating system has to schedule, operating system has to manage all this thing so that the P7 will be executed without getting any interruption or without getting any problem. So avoidance in the sense that we have to avoid, or we have to look into the, we in the sense operating system has to look in the future, what is the demand or what is the need of each and every process. Underline the word need. So what is the need of each and every process, that is to be checked by the operating system for the avoidance. So with the additional knowledge, we can decide for each request whether or not the process should wait. So means they request, suppose the P7 process enter into the system and it declares that I want the resource number R1, R2, R3, R4. And if the process P9 enters into the system and requests that I want R1, R2, R5, R15, R10. So how to manage these requests and when to manage these requests? So that is the duty of your operating system. So that is called as the deadlock avoidance. And this, for the deadlock avoidance, we have to use the algorithm. So we have to use algorithm, and it is called as the Banker's algorithm. It is called as the Banker's algorithm. Means it is nothing but the combination of safety algorithm and resource request algorithm that we have to see. We'll see in the next lecture. But for the timing, just remember deadlock avoidance. The Banker's algorithm is used for the deadlock avoidance. Always it is a question in MCQ examinations. The Banker's algorithm is whether it is a deadlock prevention algorithm or a deadlock avoidance algorithm or it is a deadlock occur and recover. But it is a deadlock avoidance algorithm. Means the Banker's algorithm, what it does, it takes the need of each process in advance before starting its execution, and it checks that whether allocating these resources to that particular process, whether the system leads to the deadlock state or not, right? So it has to check the request or demand or the need given by each and every process time to time, right? So we'll see in detail deadlock avoidance. And the next point is that if system does not handle deadlock prevention or deadlock avoidance, then deadlock occur in the system, then algorithm is to recover from that particular deadlock. So by taking care of so many measures, whether deadlock prevention or deadlock avoidance, but still, if the deadlock occurs in the system, then there must be some rectifying measures that to rectify the deadlock or to come out of from the deadlock so that the system will regain its original state. That we have to see. So these are the methods. Now we'll see the deadlock prevention. When one by one, first, second, and third, we have to see one by one. So first, the topic is nothing but the deadlock prevention. So deadlock prevention, we have to see that. So see here, the mutual exclusion is written and hold and wait. And on the next page, again, two conditions are written. So we have to ensure that at least one of the necessary condition must get prevented so that the deadlock will be prevented. Getting my point or not? At least one condition should be stopped. If the operating system is able to stop at least one condition, so 100% the deadlock will be prevented. So by ensuring that at least one of these necessary conditions cannot hold, we can prevent the occurrence of the deadlock. We can prevent the occurrence of the deadlock here. So how? So we have to see how to prevent the mutual exclusion, how to prevent the hold and wait, how to prevent the no preemption, or how to prevent the circular wait conditions. For mutual exclusion condition only hold for non-shareable resources. That everybody knows. If the resource is non-shareable, if this resource R1 is there, so this R1 is there and there is a process P1 and there is a process P2, and this is a non-shareable resource. So printer cannot share by number of processes at a time. Everybody knows. So multiple processes cannot print their output on the printer. Once the process is printing, the printer will remain that with that particular process till its complete end. That is the logic. Then on the other hand, it is not required for shareable resources. But if the shareable resources are there, if there are shareable resources, then hence not involving the deadlock. If instead of non-shareable resources, if we go for shareable resource, maximum shareable resources, then definitely there is no chance about the waiting of that particular process. And as the process do not have to wait, definitely there will be not any chances to enter into the deadlock state. So if several processes attempt to open read-only file at the same time, they can grant simultaneous access to the file. Means file is a shareable resource. That file can be read by multiple reader processes. Already we have discussed multiple reader processes that can, suppose if it is a file, so this file can be read by multiple number of reader processes. So no reader process is waiting to read that particular file. A process need not wait for the shareable resource. So important point is that we have to mostly concentrate on the shareable resource or maximum shareable resources, or sources must be shareable in nature. If there are maximum number of resources that are shareable in nature, then definitely we are able to avoid or we are able to prevent the mutual exclusion condition. Getting this point or not? How? If the number of resources or if the number of shareable resources are more in the system, the mutual exclusion condition is successfully, we are able to prevent the mutual exclusion condition. Right? So this is the way to prevent the deadlock, by preventing the mutual exclusion condition. Now hold and wait. Now how the hold and wait occurs in the system? The hold and wait occur in the system because this is, say for example, resource R1. Now this resource R1, now it is allocated to that particular process P1, and P1 is still requesting the resource R2, for example. This is the way. The R1, so P1 is holding resource R1 and waiting for resource R2. So how to prevent that hold and wait situation, that we have to see. Okay, so we'll continue our discussion in the next lecture. For today, we'll stop here. We'll continue on tomorrow.